I grew up in a white middle-class neighborhood and went to schools that were 100% white. Since everyone looked like me, I never really noticed the color of my skin or considered myself in racial terms, or thought that I was privileged in any way. I actually thought I was very unlucky compared to my friends and classmates because of my often abusive, chaotic home life. Now, I knew there were people who didn't look like me, but my race didn't seem to be a factor in my often challenging life. Later, working full time to put myself through college, I never had enough money, living on soup, baked potatoes, and whatever food I could smuggle home from my job at Arby's. I graduated with a teaching degree, married and had a daughter we put through college, taught for 30 years, bought a house, paid the bills, and I was proud of what I'd accomplished. And I believed that what I'd achieved had nothing to do with being white. Then several years ago, I was watching a HBO series set in Baltimore called The Wire, and my favorite character was a young black guy named Brody, who sold drugs. He was smart, funny, loyal, hardworking, and doomed to death at an early age. I really liked Brody. In many ways, he reminded me of myself at that age, and when he died, it really jolted me. But what jolted me even more was when I realized that if I had been born in those same circumstances, I probably would have had the same kind of life. The defining difference between myself and Brody was race. If I were the parent of a young black male in America today, I would be so scared for my child. Now, all parents worry. When you first hold that newborn, tiny little treasure in your hand, the incredible visceral joy that you feel, the amazing grace that flows through you, is immediately coupled with the equally powerful and paralyzing fear that something could happen to this beautiful little treasure. So you do all you can to protect them, to shelter them from harm. And when they're grown and any semblance, any illusion of your ability to protect them is gone, you learn to steel yourself and deal with that worry. In my case, a worry that's compounded by my daughter's gender in a society that is so often predatory, so casually violent to women. See, but at least I don't have to fear that there's a generalized, legally authorized, institutionalized, more and more militarized, heavily armed segment of this society that would immediately categorize my child as probably angry, certainly dangerous, and potentially violent, to be treated with suspicion and fear. There's a scene in one of the Lethal Weapon movies where Danny Glover plays a black cop who was just involved in a shootout that ended in the death of a black teenager. Later that day, he's in the bathroom of his home. He's teaching his 14-year-old son how to shave for the first time. You see the pride and the loving wonder on the father's face as he realizes his little boy is becoming a man. And in that same instant, you see that pride and that wonder morph and dissolve into the horrible realization that his son is not just becoming a man, he's becoming a black man. Race is the elephant in the room, and unless we talk about it, it's not going to get better. But people get uncomfortable. They get bored and roll their eyes and say, "Oh, is it that again? Why do we have to keep talking about that?" But there has to be some hard and troubling dialogue for anything to change. People have to be made to feel uncomfortable, especially white people, because we're comfortable. We still have no clue what being born white means. Because I'm white, I've had systematic cultural advantages that have been built up and cemented for hundreds of years. It's hard to accept. I still have trouble realizing that my life, difficult and contrary as it has sometimes been, has nevertheless been one of relative privilege due to my race. It's as if I started life at the 50-yard line in a 100-yard dash, and I've got that kind of lead simply because I was born white. Some sarcastic white people say, "Hey, where do I get my white privilege check? Because I don't think I ever got mine." Now, white privilege is already being compensated and not realizing it. But people want the status quo. They want to hold their position and not give it up. But until it's given up, it's not going to get fixed. What took me so long to understand is that racism is not due to individual hearts or isolated incidents. It's due to white social systems and institutional structures. People here in this country, we all come from so many different places. Now we're all here together. No one here wants to see people dying in the streets. No one wants inequality. But we need to challenge each other, and we need to help each other to the truth. And the truth has to be real, and it has to be honest. even if it is uncomfortable.